Reporting from Washington, Diane Sawyer and George Stephanopoulos.
And good evening on this crisp, clear night in Washington, D.C. here with George Stephanopoulos, just a few hundred feet from the Capitol Dome. And we have been watching the House chamber fill. Now, more than 1,000 people there. Cabinet secretaries like Janet Napolitano, you see her right there. Behind her, I believe that's Rahm Emanuel, the chief of staff. And senators are there, members of Congress, their guests. And George, I was saying to you earlier, how many times have we said President Obama has to give the speech of his life? We said it at the Democratic Convention. He had to unify the party. After Reverend Wright, he had to speak about race. Tonight, is this another one?
And no one hates those expectations more than the president, but it is true. This is the first time he's come into this chamber after taking a big hit, that loss in Massachusetts last week, and he is going to be speaking, Diane, tonight, we all know it, to a country that is pretty angry, that is pretty anxious, and that is in pain. His approval ratings are much lower than when he was in this chamber a year ago. Majority of the country thinks we're going in the wrong direction right now, and even though the president remains personally pretty popular, most Americans disapprove of what he's doing on the economy, on health care.
That's right, and we have seen the numbers. We have seen the way some of those numbers have slid. Unemployment, which has also taken a plummet since he came in office. Of course, stock market back up, may get good economic numbers later in the week. But let's take a look at this room again, because Michelle Obama has already arrived. The First Lady has already arrived. And we're told that on either side of her tonight will be seated first the wife of one of the Fairfax, Virginia rescue teams who went to Haiti and did such phenomenal and heroic work there. And there you see also Sergeants Kimberly Munley and Mark Todd. You may remember that Nidal Malik Hassan, who was the Fort Hood shooter charged with 13 counts of premeditated murder, they were instrumental in bringing him down that day. There on either side of Mrs. Obama.
And Diane, a little political symbolism in the wardrobes there. You just saw the First Lady in deep purple. Let's go back for a second to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, all wearing a shade of purple. Here's why it's symbolic. The president has to speak to the center of the country tonight. Not red, not blue, but that mix. Purple. I don't think that was entirely by accident, those wardrobe choices tonight. I really don't think so.
You think at that level of calculation?
A little bit.
You do. All right. Let's take a look in the room again, because we saw members of the Supreme Court come in, members of the cabinet have come in. Senator Clinton, and now Secretary Clinton, of course, is not there. She's over in London getting ready for the big meeting on Afghanistan. But there is also the designated secretary who will not be in the room tonight, and that is HUD Secretary Sean Donovan, who is staying out of the room. The colloquial term is designated survivor, someone appointed to be outside in a secure location.
That's right. And there have been members of Congress who have been coming into that chamber since early this morning. You saw just a moment ago Rahm Emanuel, the White House chief of staff, speaking to Eliot Engel, who for the last 21 years has made it a point to be the first congressman in the chamber. We can't see him right now, but it was just a couple of seconds ago. Members of Congress line up all day long to get those aisle seats so that they can get that shot, shaking the hands of the president.
Can I tell you a couple of tweets that have come out of the room tonight so far? Somebody tweeted us, "It is so cold in this chamber that people are shivering in the chamber tonight." Maybe that's the president's request. We don't know. There was another tweet that said, Joe Wilson, Congressman Joe Wilson of South Carolina, of course, famously shouted out, "You lie." Apparently, they said that he's going to be sitting in the same seat, but he's already told us he's going to behave tonight.
And we saw just a moment ago the Joint Chiefs led by Admiral Mullen. Of course, the president is going to spend most of his time tonight talking about the economy, but we'll have to address the wars in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, and of course the war against al-Qaeda. I want to bring in Jake Tapper now, our White House correspondent. Jake, Diane and I had been meeting earlier in the day with the president, and it was pretty clear over the course of that lunch that this is a man who's coming into the chamber tonight, not in an apologetic mode. Hold off one second.
We are expecting to hear from the Majority Floor Services Chief. He'll begin the announcement, then the House Sergeant at Arms.
Madam Speaker.
You're throwing up on Greg.
That is Barry Sullivan, the floor leader for the Democrats, and also W. Bill Livingood, the Sergeant at Arms.
Madam Speaker!
The President of the United States.
President entering the room, and as you said, a number of these congressmen and women get there very early. In fact, we were told the earliest got there at 8 a.m. to be on that aisle so they could shake hands with the president.
That's right, and the president flanked by members of the Democratic leadership behind him. The Democratic leader in the Senate, Harry Reid, Majority Leader in the House, Steny Hoyer, right behind him. Jim Clyburn, the Democratic whip in the House, right behind them as well.
We are expecting the president to speak perhaps more than an hour tonight, a little longer than the average length of the State of the Union speech.
He's got a lot of work to do, and I do want to bring Jake Tapper in. He was interrupted by the announcement. Jake, lay out what you believe the White House goals are tonight coming into this speech.
Well, he has a few. First of all, with most of the country thinking that we are now on the wrong track, he has to say the state of our union is strong, but he has to convince the American people that that's true when most of them right now are worried about the direction of the country. You alluded to reaching out to the center, and that's an important task for the president with the Democratic Party hemorrhaging independents in those recent elections and also in polls. He's got to do that, but even though he has high approval ratings among the Democratic Party, among Democrats out in the country, he also has to rally the base. This is a very unenthusiastic Democratic Party right now. And most important, I think the president has to seize the mantle of change. That is not an easy thing for an incumbent president to do, especially after health care. The White House acknowledges that the way the legislation was formed, there was a lot of deals that hurt the president's image in terms of being seen as an outsider. We see the president
there. Excuse me there for a second. We just saw the president with the Secretary of the Treasury, Tim Geithner. We saw him lean over and whisper some